The storm began at 11:30 p.m. By 12:15 a.m., the roads were closed. At 12:45 a.m., the power went out. And in that moment, night shift gas station attendant Mitch O'Connor transformed into Sea Wolf, the man who had spent 16 years rescuing people from stormy seas. "Folks," he said in a calm voice, "it's going to be a long night, but I'll get every one of you home safely by morning." Before we dive into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if this story moves you, make sure you subscribe, because tomorrow I have something very special planned for you. Mountain View Gas and Go sat at the intersection of State Route 47 and Mountain Pass Road, a small 24-hour station that served late-night travelers, shift workers, and anyone else who needed fuel or supplies when the rest of the rural Colorado town was sleeping. At 11:15 p.m. on a February Thursday, the station hummed quietly under bright overhead lights, surrounded by the kind of darkness that only exists in mountain communities far from city glow. Michael Mitch O'Connor had been working the night shift for 4 years, ever since he'd moved to Pine Ridge looking for a quieter life than his previous career had provided. At 44, he'd found an unexpected peace in the simple routine of pumping gas, stocking shelves, and making sure late-night customers got what they needed safely. The work was honest, straightforward, and completely different from the life-and-death responsibilities of his former profession. Tonight's customers were typical for a Thursday. Tom Peterson, a long-haul trucker making his usual cross-country run, had stopped for coffee and diesel fuel. Sarah Martinez sat in her car with her 2 young children, Emma and Jake, ages 7 and 9, returning from visiting grandparents in Denver. Near the coffee machine, elderly Mrs. Chun counted change for her prescription pickup from the 24-hour pharmacy
gas
next
pumps,
door. College student Ryan Brooks filled his tank before driving back to campus. Mitch moved through his routine with practiced efficiency, but as trained, I constantly monitored conditions that most people wouldn't notice. The weather forecast had mentioned possible snow, but mountain weather could change rapidly. His positioning behind the counter provided clear sight lines to all areas of the station, and he'd automatically noted wind patterns, temperature drops, and the subtle atmospheric changes that suggested incoming severe weather. What customers didn't realize was that Mitch's approach to gas station management had been shaped by 16 years of Coast Guard training in weather assessment, emergency response, and crisis management. His systematic attention to safety protocols, his knowledge of emergency supplies, and his calm readiness for unexpected situations reflected skills learned during years of rescue operations in conditions where mistakes cost lives. At exactly 11:30 p.m., the first snowflakes began falling. Within minutes, the gentle dusting had transformed into something far more serious. Wind gusts shook the station's windows, and the snow began falling so heavily that visibility dropped to mere feet. Mitch's weather radio crackled to life with urgent bulletins. Winter storm warning upgraded TO blizzard warning. Immediate travel restrictions. Emergency crews suspending operations. Seek shelter immediately. The transformation outside was dramatic and frightening. What had been a clear mountain night became a wall of swirling white that made the parking lot invisible from inside the station. Temperature readings on Mitch's displays showed a rapid drop from 28 degrees to 15 degrees in less than 20 minutes. Tom Peterson emerged from the restroom to find his semi-truck already covered in several inches of snow. "Never seen it come down this fast," he said, shaking his head as he watched the storm. Sarah Martinez tried to start her car, but the engine turned over sluggishly in the sudden cold. Her children pressed their faces against the station windows, watching the snow with the fascination that only young kids could maintain in the face of nature's power. "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" Emma asked, picking up on her mother's obvious anxiety. Before Sarah could answer, Mitch stepped forward. His demeanor had shifted subtly but unmistakably. The relaxed gas station attendant was being replaced by someone who radiated calm authority and professional competence. "Everyone inside," Mitch announced, his voice carrying clearly through the station. "We're going to wait this out together." As if responding to some unspoken signal, the power failed at 12:45 a.m., plunging the station into darkness except for the emergency lighting that kicked in automatically. The sudden loss of heat, lights, and most electrical systems transformed their situation from inconvenient to potentially dangerous. Emergency generator will run the essential systems, Mitch announced, moving through the darkness with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where everything was located. Heat, emergency lighting, basic power for radios and phones. Mrs. Chen clutched her medication bag nervously. How long might we be here? Mitch consulted his weather radio, which was crackling with continuous updates about road closures and emergency conditions. Based on current conditions and emergency response protocols, probably until dawn at minimum. But we're prepared for that. Ryan Brooks looked around the small station with growing anxiety. Prepared? This is just a gas station. This is a designated emergency shelter point, Mitch corrected calmly. And I have 16 years of experience managing survival situations in adverse weather conditions. The simple statement, delivered with quiet confidence, seemed to steady everyone's nerves, who'd been growing increasingly agitated about his delivery schedule, looked at Mitch with new attention. Experience doing what? Tom asked. Coast Guard, Mitch replied, already moving to check emergency supplies. Rescue swimmer, specialized in weather-related emergency response and survival operations. The revelation hit the small group like a revelation. Sarah Martinez felt immediate relief. Her children were stranded, but they were stranded with someone who actually knew how to handle emergencies. Mitch's response to their situation was immediate and systematic. He moved through the station with practiced efficiency, implementing emergency procedures that most people had never seen outside of professional rescue operations. First priority is maintaining core temperature, he announced, distributing emergency blankets from supplies most customers had never noticed. Everyone stay together in the main area where body heat and the generator can keep us warm. He organized the stranded travelers with the kind of calm authority that came from years of managing crisis situations. Tom Peterson was assigned to monitor the weather radio and maintain communication with emergency services. Mrs. Chun, with her nursing background, was asked to keep track of everyone's health and comfort. Sarah was put in charge of organizing food and water supplies. What about us? Asked Jake Martinez, eager to help despite being only 9 years old. Mitch knelt to Jake's eye level, speaking with the same serious respect he'd shown the adults. You and Emma are my junior crew members. I need you to help keep spirits up and watch for any changes in conditions outside. The children beamed with pride at being given real responsibilities, and their excitement helped counteract the anxiety that was beginning to build among the adults. Ryan Brooks watched Mitch work with growing amazement. You really know what you're doing, don't you? 16 years of rescue operations, Mitch confirmed, checking the station's emergency heating system. Most of them in weather conditions that make this look like a mild inconvenience. As the hours passed, Mitch demonstrated why Coast Guard training produced some of the world's most effective emergency responders. He maintained constant awareness of each person's physical and emotional state, rotated responsibilities to keep everyone engaged, and created the kind of calm, purposeful atmosphere that prevented panic from taking hold. Tell me about your rescue operations, Sarah asked during one of Mitch's regular check-ins. Her children had fallen asleep, wrapped in emergency blankets, and she was fighting her own anxiety about the situation. Mitch settled into a chair where he could maintain visual contact with all areas of the station while talking. Helicopter and boat rescue operations, mostly. People in distress at sea during storms, sometimes much worse than this one. Worse than a blizzard. Ryan asked skeptically. Hurricane Katrina, Mitch said simply. Category 5 storm surge, 60-foot seas, zero visibility. We pulled 47 people out of the water during that storm cycle. The quiet matter-of-fact delivery was more impressive than any dramatic retelling. Mrs. Chun looked at him with new understanding. That's why you're so calm about this. Weather is weather, Mitch said. The principles of survival and rescue remain the same whether you're on a sinking boat or in a gas station during a blizzard. Keep people warm, maintain communication, stay calm, and wait for conditions to improve. Tom Peterson's radio crackled with an update from emergency services. All county roads closed indefinitely. Emergency crews, unable to respond, until conditions improve. All citizens advised to shelter in place. How long? Sarah asked, though she was beginning to trust that Mitch would handle whatever came
Most
next.
likely,
Mitch replied. Mountain storms like this usually break with sunrise. Emergency crews will be out as soon as it's safe. Throughout the long night, Mitch demonstrated skills that went far beyond technical rescue training. He kept conversations going, shared stories that distracted from the situation, and maintained the kind of positive leadership that made everyone feel safer despite being stranded in the middle of a dangerous storm. "Tell us about the Coast Guard," Emma Martinez said during one of her wakeful periods. "Did you really save people?" Mitch smiled, adjusting her blanket. "That was my job. When people were in trouble on the water, we went out to get them and bring them home safely." "Like a superhero?" Jake asked. "Like a team," Mitch corrected gently. Coast Guard rescue operations always involve teams of people working together, just like we're doing tonight. The simple comparison helped both children understand their situation in positive terms rather than frightening ones. They weren't trapped. They were part of a rescue team working together to stay safe. Mrs. Chun shared stories about her nursing career. Tom Peterson talked about his years of cross-country trucking, and Ryan Brooks discussed his engineering studies. Mitch guided the conversation skillfully, keeping everyone focused on positive topics while monitoring conditions outside. "You're really good at this," Sarah observed quietly. "The leadership thing, I mean, rescue operations require managing scared people under extreme stress," Mitch replied. "Keep them calm, give them purpose, maintain hope. Same principles apply whether you're on a sinking ship or in a snowbound gas station." At 6:23 a.m., the first gray light of dawn revealed that the storm had finally passed. Snow had stopped falling, and while drifts reached 4 feet in some areas, the worst was clearly over. Mitch's weather radio confirmed that emergency crews were beginning to mobilize. "Just like I predicted," Mitch announced to his drowsy charges. "Emergency services will be here within the hour." True to his prediction, the distinctive sound of snowplows could be heard by 7:15 a.m., followed shortly by the arrival of county emergency vehicles and rescue teams. The professional response was efficient and well-coordinated, but by the time they arrived, Mitch had already demonstrated that the real rescue had taken place throughout the night. "Outstanding work," said Fire Captain Rodriguez as he surveyed the situation. "Everyone warm, calm, and properly cared for. Textbook emergency management. Coast Guard training," Mitch explained modestly. "Rescue swimmer?" Captain Rodriguez asked, recognizing the professional quality of Mitch's emergency response. 16 years. Retired to civilian life 4 years ago. Captain Rodriguez nodded approvingly. "Well, you haven't lost your touch. This could have been a very different situation without proper leadership." By 9:30 a.m., roads had been cleared enough for safe travel, and Mitch's overnight charges were preparing to leave. Each person approached him individually to express gratitude for what had been, by any measure, life-saving professional competence. "How can we thank you?" Sarah Martinez asked, holding her children's hands as they prepared to head home. "No thanks necessary," Mitch replied. "Just doing what needed to be done." "Will you be here if we stop by again?" Emma asked. "Every night," Mitch assured her. "Same time, same place, though hopefully with better weather." Tom Peterson shook Mitch's hand with obvious respect. "In 30 years of trucking, I've never seen emergency management like that. You saved lives last night." "We all took care of each other," Mitch corrected. "That's how these things work." As the last of his overnight guests departed, Mitch returned to his normal routine of restocking shelves and preparing for the day's shift. Buzzed with a text from his old Coast Guard unit commander. "Heard through emergency channels you had some excitement last night. Everyone's safe." Mitch smiled slightly. Even years after leaving active duty, the Coast Guard family maintained contact, checking on each other across distance and civilian careers. "All souls accounted for," he texted back. "Just kept folks warm and calm until conditions improved." The response came quickly. "Once a rescue swimmer, always a rescue swimmer. Outstanding work, Sea Wolf." Mitch pocketed his phone and continued his cleanup routine. 4 years ago, when he'd first taken this job, he thought his rescue career was over. The Coast Guard had taught him to save lives in hostile environments, but civilian life had required different applications of those same skills. Working at the gas station had seemed like simple, honest work, a chance to serve his community in a small but meaningful way. Last night had reminded him that rescue operations took many forms, and sometimes the most important saves happened not in stormy seas, but in familiar places where people found themselves in unexpected danger. His Coast Guard training had never really left him. It had simply adapted to different circumstances. Instead of rescuing people from sinking ships, he rescued travelers from dangerous weather. Instead of conducting helicopter operations over open ocean, he managed survival situations in mountain communities. The mission remained the same: bring everyone home safely. Sometimes that meant jumping from helicopters in a hurricane seas. Sometimes it meant managing a gas station through a blizzard night. The location changed, but the commitment never did. Mitch Sea Wolf O'Connor continued his shift, serving coffee and fuel to anyone who needed safe passage through the mountains. Some warriors retired to quiet suburbs, and others found new ways to serve their communities, one traveler at a time, one storm at a time. Have you ever encountered someone who quietly kept others safe during an emergency in ways you didn't expect? Share your stories in the comments below, and let us know what city you're watching from today. If this story of hidden expertise and selfless service resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And don't miss the 2 compelling stories appearing on your screen right now. Click and discover more tales of everyday heroes with extraordinary backgrounds. Because sometimes the most important rescues happen on dry land, by people who chose quiet service over recognition. See you in the next videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe.